September 19th, 1953, 2:15 p.m., Murphy's Diner, West 54th Street. The bell above the door chimed. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Forks froze halfway to mouths. Coffee cups hung in the air like time itself had paused. Bumpy Johnson stood in the doorway of the whites-only establishment, like he owned the place. 6 feet of controlled danger in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit. His eyes swept the room, not searching, assessing, the way a wolf counts sheep before deciding which one dies first. The silence was suffocating. 37 white faces turned to stare at the one black man who just walked through their door. The "whites only" sign above the counter might as well have been invisible. Bumpy didn't even glance at it. From behind the counter, Patrick Murphy emerged, thick-necked Irish immigrant, former dock worker, built his reputation on keeping people like Bumpy out. His face flushed crimson, his meaty hands balled into fists. "You lost, boy?" Murphy's voice carried across the diner like a death threat. Every man in that room knew what came next. Violence, blood. The police would be called. This black man had just signed his own death warrant by walking through that door. Bumpy smiled. Not the kind that puts people at ease, the kind that makes smart men reach for their guns, and smarter men head for the exit. "I'm exactly where I need to be," Bumpy replied, his voice calm as still water before a hurricane. Murphy's hand moved toward the Louisville slugger he kept behind the counter, the same bat he'd used to convince 3 other black men to leave his establishment, permanently. "This ain't your neighborhood," Murphy growled, "and this sure as hell ain't your diner." Bumpy took a step forward. The floorboard creaked under his weight. "Funny thing about ownership, Murphy. It changes." What happened in the next 15 minutes would become the most whispered about story in Harlem, because Bumpy Johnson didn't throw a single punch that day, didn't draw a weapon, didn't raise his voice. But what he did do was worse than any beating Murphy could have imagined. This is the story of how Bumpy Johnson destroyed a man without ever touching him. To understand what happened in Murphy's Diner that September afternoon, you need to go back 3 weeks to a Tuesday night, August 25th, 1953. Mary Washington was 17 years old, beautiful, innocent. Every Tuesday and Thursday night, she cleaned office buildings in Midtown Manhattan, scrubbing floors, emptying trash cans, making white people's workspaces spotless for $1.75 an hour. It was honest work, hard work, the kind that left your hands raw and your back aching. But Mary never complained. Her family needed every penny. On her way home around 11 p.m., she'd stop at Murphy's Diner, just for a cup of coffee and maybe a piece of toast. A small comfort before the long subway ride back to Harlem. Murphy tolerated her, barely. He'd serve her at the back counter, away from his respectable white customers, charged her double, called it a convenience fee. Mary paid it without argument. She knew how the world worked in 1953. But here's what most people don't know about Mary Washington. Her father, James Washington, wasn't just another Harlem resident. He was a former inmate at Alcatraz, same cell block as Bumpy Johnson, prison riot. 3 guards and a rival gang member tried to shank Bumpy in the showers. James Washington saw it happening. He could have walked away, should have walked away. Instead, he grabbed a pipe and evened the odds. Bumpy survived. James took a knife to the ribs that was meant for Bumpy's throat. In Bumpy's world, blood debts are forever. When Bumpy got out of Alcatraz in 1952, he came back to Harlem with a mission: rebuild his empire, reclaim his territory, and protect his people, all his people, especially those who'd earned his loyalty. James Washington's family was under Bumpy Johnson's protection. That meant something. That meant everything. Mary Washington didn't know any of this. She just knew that sometimes, when things got rough in the neighborhood, her father would say, "Don't worry, we're protected." She never understood what that meant. She was about to find out. Patrick Murphy came to America in 1946 with $37 in his pocket and a dream of owning something, anything. Back in County Cork, he'd been nothing. In New York, he was determined to be somebody. He worked the docks for 5 years, saved every penny, took no handouts. In 1951, he bought a failing diner on West 54th Street, fixed it up, made it profitable, made it respectable. Murphy's Diner became known for 3 things: strong coffee, cheap breakfast, and a strict door policy. No coloreds, no exceptions. Murphy was proud of that. He'd built something clean, something orderly, something white. In his mind, that's what made it successful. That's what made it worth something. He had a reputation in the neighborhood. Tough, uncompromising. 3 times, black men had tried to eat at his counter. 3 times, Murphy had introduced them to the Louisville Slugger he kept behind the register. Nobody filed complaints. That's just how it was. Tuesday night, August 25th, 1953. 11:17 p.m., Mary Washington walked into Murphy's Diner like she did every Tuesday, exhausted, her feet aching. She sat at the back counter, ordered her usual, coffee and toast. When the bill came, she counted out her tips from the day. Nickels, dimes, pennies. She counted twice. Then a third time, she was 3 cents short. "Please, Mr. Murphy." Mary's voice was barely a whisper. "I'll bring the 3 cents tomorrow, I promise." Murphy's laugh was cold as a February wind off the Hudson. "Promises don't pay bills, girl. No money, no service." Mary's eyes filled with tears, not because of the coffee, because she was so tired. So bone-tired that those 3 cents felt like the weight of the world. She gathered her coins, started to leave. That's when her legs gave out. Mary Washington collapsed right there on the diner floor. Exhaustion, malnutrition, the weight of working 2 jobs at 17 years old while trying to finish high school. The other customers watched. A businessman in a gray suit, 2 construction workers, an elderly couple, a waitress named Helen. Nobody moved, nobody helped. They just stared at a 17-year-old black girl lying unconscious on the dirty checkerboard floor. Murphy came around the counter, looked down at Mary like she was a stain on his clean establishment. "Somebody get this thing out of my diner." Thing, not girl, not person, thing. He stepped over her unconscious body and went back to wiping down the counter. Helen, the waitress, finally called an ambulance, but Murphy made sure they used the back door. Didn't want to disturb his other customers. By the time Mary came to in the hospital, Murphy had already forgotten about her. Just another Tuesday night. Just another problem solved. What Murphy didn't know was that word travels fast in Harlem. Faster than ambulances. Faster than police reports. By Wednesday morning, a 10-year-old boy named Marcus, a kid Bumpy paid to shine shoes and keep his ears open, was standing in Bumpy's office above Small's Paradise. "Mr. Johnson," Marcus said, his voice shaking, "something happened to Mary Washington." Bumpy looked up from the newspaper he was reading. His face didn't change, but everyone in that room felt the temperature drop. "Tell me everything," Marcus told him. The 3 cents, the collapse, Murphy stepping over her, the word, thing. When Marcus finished, the room was silent. Bumpy reached into his pocket, pulled out a $20 bill, handed it to Marcus. "You did good. Now forget you were here." After Marcus left, Bumpy sat in his chair for 5 full minutes, not moving, not speaking, just thinking. His associate, a man named Illinois Gordon, knew better than to interrupt, but he recognized that look on Bumpy's face. He'd seen it before, right before bodies started dropping. Finally, Bumpy spoke. His voice was barely above a whisper. "Murphy thinks he can disrespect what's mine." Illinois waited. 3 weeks, Bumpy said. "I need 3 weeks." "What do you want me to do?" Bumpy smiled. That terrifying smile. Find out everything about Patrick Murphy, where he banks, who he owes, what keeps him up at night. Every man has pressure points, Illinois. Let's find his. Over the next 3 weeks, Bumpy Johnson became a ghost studying his prey. He learned that Murphy's Diner sat on property owned by a Brooklyn real estate company. He learned Murphy's lease was up for renewal in 6 months. He learned Murphy had been trying to buy the building for 2 years, but couldn't get financing. He learned Murphy owed $3,000 to an Irish loan shark named Declan O'Rourke. Money borrowed to repair the diner's kitchen after a grease fire in 1952, due in full by December. He learned Murphy's coffee supplier, his bread supplier, his meat supplier. He learned Murphy's Diner cleared maybe $200 profit a month. Good money for a working man, not enough to pay off debts and buy buildings. Most importantly, Bumpy learned about Murphy's pride. The man bragged to everyone who'd listen how he built his business from nothing, how he ran a respectable establishment, how he kept his diner clean. That word again. Illinois Gordon did his job perfectly. 3 weeks of watching, listening, documenting. By September 15th, Bumpy had a complete picture of Patrick Murphy's life. He also had a plan. First, Bumpy visited Declan O'Rourke. Declan was old-school Irish mob. Respected Bumpy because Bumpy was a professional. "I want to buy Murphy's debt," Bumpy said. Declan named a price, $3,500. Bumpy paid in cash. Next, Bumpy visited the Brooklyn real estate company that owned Murphy's building, made them an offer they couldn't refuse, $15,000 for a building worth maybe $12,000. They signed the deed over within a week. Then Bumpy visited Murphy's suppliers, one by one. Made it clear that new contracts would be available soon. Very profitable contracts, but only if they were patient. By September 18th, Patrick Murphy owned nothing. He just didn't know it yet. Murphy had heard rumors, of course. Word on the street said Bumpy Johnson was asking questions about him, making moves. Murphy laughed it off. He told his cook, an old German immigrant named Franz, that name knows better than to start trouble with a white establishment. I got friends. I got connections. He touches me, he'll have every cop in Manhattan on his ass. Franz didn't respond. He'd been in New York long enough to know that confidence and stupidity often looked the same. September 19th, 2:15 p.m. Bumpy Johnson walked through the door of Murphy's Diner, and Patrick Murphy's world ended. The bell above the door chimed like a funeral toll. Every head turned, 37 white customers, one black man in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than most of them made in a month. Bumpy's shoes clicked on the checkerboard floor, Italian leather, each step deliberate, each step bringing him closer to the counter where Murphy stood. The air felt thick, heavy, like breathing through wet cotton. A businessman's coffee cup rattled against its saucer. The sound echoed in the silence. Murphy emerged from behind the counter, 6'2", 240 pounds, face red as a boiled lobster, hands balling into fists. But his hands were shaking, not from fear, not yet, from rage. How dare this man walk into his establishment, his domain, his world? "You lost, boy?" Murphy's voice carried across the diner. The other customers held their breath. This was it, the moment before violence. They'd seen it before. The calm before Murphy grabbed his bat and taught someone a lesson about respect. Bumpy smiled. Stopped 6 feet from Murphy, close enough to talk, far enough to see everything. "I'm exactly where I need to be." Murphy's hand moved toward the Louisville slugger, his fingers wrapped around the wood. 34 inches of solid ash. He'd cracked ribs with this bat, broken jaws, sent men to hospitals. "This ain't your neighborhood," Murphy growled, lifting the bat, "and this sure as hell ain't your diner." Bumpy took one step forward. The floorboard creaked. Funny thing about ownership, Murphy, it changes. Murphy raised the bat higher. You threatening me in my own place? Bumpy's smile never wavered. I don't make threats, Murphy. I make promises. The room was suffocating. Customers shifted in their seats. Two men near the door stood up, ready to leave. One elderly woman clutched her purse. A truck driver reached into his jacket for something. Maybe a knife, maybe courage. Murphy's knuckles went white around the bat. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. The black man was supposed to back down, apologize, run. But Bumpy Johnson just stood there, calm, smiling, like he knew something Murphy didn't. And that's what finally made Murphy's hands shake for a different reason. Then Bumpy did something nobody expected. He walked past Murphy, pulled out a stool at the counter, sat down, adjusted his cuffs, straightened his tie, like he was settling in for Sunday brunch. Coffee, Bumpy said calmly. Black. Murphy's brain couldn't process it. The bat hung useless in his hand. This man had just walked into his diner, ignored his threats, and ordered coffee. Did you hear me, boy? I said. I heard you, Murphy. Bumpy's voice was silk over steel. Now you're going to hear me. Bumpy reached into his jacket. Every person in that diner tensed. This was it. The gun, the knife, the violence they'd been expecting. But what Bumpy pulled out was an envelope. Manila, about 9 by 12 inches. He placed it on the counter, slid it across to Murphy. Open it. Murphy's face twisted with confusion, then rage. I don't take orders from... Open the envelope. Something in Bumpy's voice made Murphy obey. His hands shook as he tore it open, pulled out the papers inside. The blood drained from Murphy's face. That's the deed to your building, Murphy. Bumpy let the words hang in the air. Well, it was your building. Now it's mine. Murphy's eyes scanned the document. His lips moved, but no sound came out. Go ahead, Bumpy said. Read it out loud. The part where it says the property at 447 West 54th Street has been transferred to Ellsworth Raymond Johnson. That's me, by the way, in case you were confused. This can't be... Keep reading, Murphy. There's more. Murphy pulled out another document. A loan agreement. $3,000 owed to Declan O'Rourke. Except O'Rourke's name had been crossed out, replaced with Bumpy Johnson's. I own your debt now too, Bumpy explained, his voice conversational, like he was discussing the weather. O'Rourke sends his regards, by the way. Murphy's legs buckled. He grabbed the counter to steady himself. The bat clattered to the floor. And those other papers, Bumpy continued, those are your supplier contracts. Coffee, bread, meat, vegetables. Guess who has first right of refusal on all of them now? Murphy's lips moved. How did you... 3 weeks, Murphy. You disrespected what was mine on August 25th. I spent the next 3 weeks buying your life. The diner was silent. Every customer heard every word. This wasn't a robbery. This wasn't a fight. This was an execution. Financial, complete, surgical. Here's what's interesting. Bumpy leaned forward. 3 weeks ago, you stepped over a 17-year-old girl. You called her a thing. You wanted her out of your establishment. Murphy's eyes widened, the realization hitting him like a fist. Her name is Mary Washington. Her father is James Washington, and James Washington saved my life in Alcatraz. Blood debts are forever, Murphy. Bumpy stood up, buttoned his jacket. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to keep working here, in this diner, your diner. Except it's not your diner anymore, is it? It's mine. You can't... The new manager starts Monday. Her name is Mary Washington. You'll be reporting to her. You'll serve whoever walks through that door. Black, white, brown, purple. Don't matter. You'll serve them with a smile. You'll charge fair prices. And you'll remember every single day what happens when you disrespect what's mine. Murphy's voice cracked. And if I refuse? If I just walk away? Bumpy smiled. Then I call in your debt to Declan O'Rourke. And Declan, he's old school Irish. He don't play nice when people don't pay. But that's your choice, Murphy. Stay and work. Or leave and see what Declan does to men who owe him money. Bumpy walked toward the door, stopped, turned back. Oh, and Murphy? That Louisville slugger? The one you used to beat black men who dared sit at your counter? Mary's taking that too. Gonna hang it on the wall. Reminder of what this place used to be and what it'll never be again. Bumpy walked out. The bell above the door chimed. Patrick Murphy collapsed onto a stool, surrounded by his customers, in his diner. That wasn't his diner. He'd been destroyed without a single punch thrown. Monday morning, 8:47 a.m. Mary Washington walked into Murphy's diner wearing a clean white blouse and her mother's Sunday skirt. Murphy was already there, behind the counter, where he'd stood for 7 years as the owner. Now he was just the help. "Good morning, Mr. Murphy," Mary said quietly, professional, dignified. Murphy couldn't meet her eyes. "Morning." Mr. Johnson explained the new arrangement. "I'll be managing day-to-day operations. You'll handle the kitchen and counter service. We'll split shifts fairly." Murphy nodded. What else could he do? The first black customer walked in at 9:15 a.m., an elderly man named Chester who'd tried to order coffee 6 months ago and left with a broken rib. Chester hesitated at the door, saw Mary behind the register, saw Murphy at the grill, understood immediately. "Table for one," Chester said, his voice steady. Mary smiled. "Right this way, sir." Murphy's hands shook as he poured the coffee. But he poured it. He served it. He took Chester's money with a thank you that tasted like poison on his tongue. Word spread through the neighborhood, faster than fire. By Tuesday, every racist business owner in Midtown had heard the story. Patrick Murphy, the tough guy, the man who'd kept his diner white. Broken by Bumpy Johnson without a single drop of blood spilled. Murphy tried to sell, called every real estate broker he knew, but Bumpy had made it clear anyone who bought would answer to him. Nobody bought. Murphy tried to quit, lasted 2 days. Then Declan O'Rourke sent 2 of his boys to Murphy's apartment. They didn't say much, didn't have to. The message was clear: pay Bumpy or pay us in ways you won't survive. Murphy went back to work. 6 months later, Murphy was a ghost. He showed up, did his job, served everyone. Black customers tipped better than the white ones ever had. The irony wasn't lost on him. Mary ran the diner with grace. She was fair to Murphy, professional, never threw his past in his face. Somehow that made it worse. Every day, Murphy had to look at that Louisville slugger hanging on the wall, a museum piece now. A reminder. Bumpy came by once a month, never said much, just sat at the counter, ordered coffee, left a $20 bill. "Keep the change, Murphy," he'd say every time. One night, Illinois Gordon asked Bumpy why he didn't just kill Murphy. Would have been easier, cleaner. Bumpy's answer became legend. "I could have killed him, but dead men don't learn. Dead men don't warn others. Murphy breathing is worth more than Murphy buried. Every racist who walks past that diner sees what happens when you disrespect mine. That's worth more than any bullet." The Murphy's Diner incident became legend in Harlem, not because of the violence, because of the precision. Bumpy Johnson proved something that day that changed how power worked in New York. Respect isn't about how hard you hit, it's about how completely you control the board. The message spread through every neighborhood, every borough. You can't disrespect Harlem and walk away with your pride. You can't step over a black girl and keep your empire. Patrick Murphy eventually left New York in 1955. Couldn't take it anymore. Last anyone heard, he was working construction in Boston. Nobody knew his name there. That's probably how he wanted it. Mary Washington ran Murphy's Diner for 15 years. changed the name to Mary's Place in 1957, made it profitable, made it welcoming, made it legendary in its own right. Other whites-only establishments in the area quietly removed their signs, not because the law changed, that wouldn't happen for another decade, but because Bumpy Johnson had proven the cost of keeping them up. The diner closed in 1968 when Mary retired. The building's still there on West 54th Street. Different business now, but old-timers in Harlem still tell the story of how Bumpy Johnson destroyed a man without breaking a single bone, how he turned a racist's pride into a monument to respect, how he proved that real power doesn't shout, it whispers. Bumpy Johnson didn't need to break bones to break a man. He just needed 3 weeks, good intelligence, and an understanding that every empire has a foundation. And foundations can crumble. In Harlem, respect wasn't requested. It was required, and Bumpy Johnson was the one who enforced the code. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button right now. And if you're not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? We're dropping these Bumpy Johnson stories every single week, and trust me, the next one is even more insane. Drop a comment below. Was Bumpy too harsh or not harsh enough? Should Murphy have gotten worse? I want to know what you think. And hit that notification bell because next time, we're telling you about the night Bumpy Johnson walked into a police station to turn himself in and walked out running the precinct. You don't want to miss that. Remember, in Harlem, justice didn't come from courtrooms. It came from Bumpy Johnson.